How in the world did we get to this exact point? And no, I don't mean in 2025 as a society. I am referring to this exact point, moment in time for my YouTube channel now that it is 2025. I have worn numerous hats within the hobby, but today I want to take you through my backstory and then really look forward for the channel because a lot of you are seeing me for the very first time. But before we begin, my name is Chris and welcome back to my channel. You can find me on X or Instagram is at CRT_Sportscards. And if you ever have a question around T206 or T206 Polar Bear, which is what I'm mainly known for these days, you can email me at chris@CRTSportscards.com. And yes, I am a Mariners fan, transplant at that. I've been now in the Northwest for just under 13 years, actually 13 years this month. And so I grew up a Braves fan, but then as I moved to the Northwest, I slowly adopted the Mariners as my favorite team. Hopefully we will do something in this offseason. We have done absolutely nothing, but notwithstanding, not the point of this video. My journey in collecting begins in West Texas. It begins as a 10 or 11-year-old. I remember my very first set that I bought. It was after my very first card show. It was 1991 Topps, that 40-year anniversary. That is, and still remains, my number one favorite set. I have that set in the closet. I'm pretty certain it is the actual set I bought back when I was 10 or 11 years old. I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty certain it is that exact set. But that is the moment that really set me onto this collecting journey. And as many of us have done with collecting, we have picked it up and we have put it down, we've picked it back up and we've put it back down. For me, I really collected all the way through high school. I stopped collecting in college and then I really picked it back up in 2006. And so from 2006, I have really been a mainstay in this hobby in one way or the other. And so this is where this journey picks up, is in 2006. Now at this time, although I was not collecting, I was in many OOTP leagues, even a commissioner of a couple of my own leagues. So if you're an OOTP original, I used to play in V5, V6, and so I haven't played in over a decade now, but those are really my roots when it comes to baseball and understanding the players. Because back in 2006, there was a huge player that was coming up or the autograph that you wanted to catch. And so I don't remember the exact scenario or how I came about this, but back in 2006, this was about a year and a half of me in my actual first career outside of college. 2006 Bowman Draft came out, and back then you could buy Bowman Draft in the blaster format at like Target, Walmart, all the normal spots. And so they were 20 bucks. And one of the very first blasters I picked up, I hit an Evan Longoria auto. And if you were around at that time, this was the autograph that you wanted to hit. I believe I ended up selling it for about 80 bucks, which in today's terms, you hit the main auto, you're talking a couple, maybe $100, if not $1,000. But back then, if you sold an auto for 20 bucks, that was a heck of a sale. And so ever since I pulled that Evan Longoria auto, I have been really off to the races. And so in that time period, like I was collecting baseball, I was dabbling in all kinds of things, but I just really didn't have a focus. And then kind of a stroke of luck happened here. Thomas Howard gets drafted by the Raiders. So yes, this journey to pre-war takes a massive detour through football. So if you're a Raiders fan, you may remember number 53. Thomas Howard was the second round draft pick for the Raiders in 2006 from Texas El Paso. Now, that is where I'm from originally, and that is where I played Division I college golf. Thomas Howard is a couple of years younger than me, so we didn't know each other that well in college. It was more of a passing, hi, how's it going, in study hall, things like that. But as I was collecting, this was now a player that I could collect, that I had a somewhat personal connection to, although very, very minor. But this is the very first time I went really heavy into player collecting. I bought everything Thomas Howard. I wanted to buy every single Bowman Chrome Refractor, keeping in mind now, at that time, Bowman Chrome football was not big at all. I was converting over from being a baseball collector to football, and so I was sort of my own lane at this point, but I wanted every red refractor, every orange, every blue. I wanted it all. Also, when it comes to his main autograph at the time, the Ultimate Collection, those are, I believe, out of 275 or 250. I'll put a photo up here in a second. This was a card I owned at one time, 25% of the print run. I had a goal of maybe getting to 100. I wanted everything of Thomas Howard. I didn't care what team it was. I just wanted Thomas Howard and wanted everything. But that is really where my luck changed and really where I stopped in a weird way, really diving heavy into player collecting. Now fast forward to November of 2013. I open up the internet, maybe on my phone or the computer, I have no idea at this time, to learn Thomas Howard has died in a car accident, and in this moment, due to his high rate of speed, he goes over the median and he kills an innocent bystander. This, for me, was a transformative time when it comes to heavily investing into actual living players. Now, I didn't know that at the time. It took me another 5 to 6 years to really reconcile this for my actual collection, because as time went by, I did start investing or going into prospecting when it came to Mariner prospects. In my mind, every Mariner prospect was going to hit it big and they were going to make it no matter what team it was, whether it be the Yankees or the Red Sox or maybe even the Mariners. So I did go heavily into players like Nick Neidert and Joe Rizzo and a Mariners prospect named Chris Torres. I promise you that is a real name. He also has autographs in Bowman. But in, I want to say, the winter of 2017, Neidert and Torres were traded to Miami for, I believe, D. Gordon at that time. And so at that moment, I kind of stopped. I was like, I'm done with this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm putting money into players. One is now passed away. Now these players I don't really care about anymore. The Marlins, I'm like, whatever. And so, and by the way, if you're enjoying this walk down memory lane, I would really appreciate a thumbs up on the video. And also, shout out to Orlando at A Collector's Dream. Thank you for the idea around this video. This is really where I started to wear really my first big hat in the hobby. At that time, I was opening cases myself. Now, when I say I was a case breaker, I was not a case breaker as in what you think of in modern times. Back in the day, OG here, Brent and Becca, Brent specifically here, would open up numerous cases and sell the cards inside and flip them that way and make money. I started doing that heavily, and so that took me from 2016, 2017, 2018, all the way up to COVID. So a lot of people in the hobby, at least 6, maybe 7 years ago now, knew me as an individual case breaker. And I have photos from when 2018 Topps Update series with Ohtani, with Acuna, with Soto rookie cards were being blown out at Blowout during Thanksgiving that year for $500. I still have one of the only gold parallel sets out there, and those sets now, or those cases, I don't even want to look up what they cost, because this photo may be 100 grand of cards in today's world. But at that time, 2018, Ohtani was an experiment. Who knew what he would turn into? So we will see what happens with them further on in their career. But that was really the first moment I sort of became a little bit more known in the hobby from buying in a reselling perspective. And to this day, I still release a yearly sales tracking file that you can download onto my website or from my website, crtsportscards.com. I do need to update it for 2025 because my goal at that time was to show everyone if you track your sales and you know your inventory, you can make money in this hobby. But now as we fast forward all the way up to COVID, 2020 happens, April of 2020. I just switched careers for the first time in 15 years. But now right before that moment in COVID, I picked up my very first T206 cards at the 2019 National. This was strictly meant as a purchase to commemorate my very first large national card show. I wanted one Chicago White Sox player and I wanted one Chicago Cubs player. Little did I know what that purchase would mean for my collecting journey today and also for my arms, but that's not the point of this video at all. But some of my very first purchases were Fielder Jones, Solly Hoffman, and then my very first polar bear, an extremely trimmed and rusty Frank Chance, which I still have to this day, and I will never let go of that card. But now, getting back on track here in April of 2020, and on my 90th day, I get furloughed because of COVID. Now, I knew this was going to happen a couple of weeks earlier, so it wasn't a surprise. But that moment is when I really knew the world changed forever. And that is when I first really turned on the video recorder. On my YouTube channel, you can see videos from early 2019 when I was doing some case breaks. But I want to say I never showed my face. Or if I did, it was very rare. In 2020 is when I went full bore into YouTube. And so this is where I started Furloughed. This was strictly a video series for me to watch in the future. I wanted to see myself in 20, 30 years to see how I sounded, how I looked, and how I handled this really momentous time in the world. I mean, I was being paid to stay home and making about 90% of my salary doing nothing. And so that sort of started this entire YouTube journey when it comes to Furloughed. I got extended, my furlough got moved a couple of times, ended up being furloughed for 4.5 months that year. But right about that 30-day period is when Project 2020 was gaining steam in the hobby, and I released a video or two in my daily series around Furloughed talking about Project 2020. And this is where my channel took off. It was really a stroke of luck that this happened. And this is really where I ask now people in the vintage community, how and where do I take this channel, and what are you looking for in the future? Because when I was doing Project 2020 content, which was a daily upload of the cards that came out, I was the only one. I was the only one doing daily commentary. So I was a man on an island and everyone was coming to my channel. You can look at my statistics on YouTube, and here you can see that just meteoric rise from a channel that maybe have had 100 subscribers at the time to then being monetized in about a week. And so like I caught lightning in a bottle with Project 2020. So when you see my channel right now at 2.5 thousand subs and then the views are so low, it's because the people who are subscribed to my channel right now are subscribed for a completely different reason. And so I spent all of 2024. So I put my first video out in March of 2024 after just over 2 years. So my channel was essentially dormant. No one was watching, or there was no new videos. People were still watching some of the old content, but for the most part, there had not been a video in 2 years. And so I kind of, in a weird way, like when I upload a video and someone unsubscribes from the channel, just because that shows that, look, this content is no longer meant for that individual person. And that's actually absolutely fine, because what I have now is not what I'm looking for in the future. And so this 2024 year was kind of rebuilding the channel in a way. Sometimes I think maybe I should have started over from scratch, but here we are. It's 2025. I'm going to continue with this channel and continue to go forward. Realistically here, I may have a channel with 500 subscriptions around strictly pre-war and vintage. Yes, there's a little bit of overlap of Project 2020, Project 70 content, which I did for several years continuously every single day, that now overlap into, T206 or vintage. I'm more into pre-war, more into T206. There was a lot of vintage out there that I just don't know. I say that, and then I remember that I built the entire 752 card 1971 top set in 4 days at the 2021 Nationals. So when I go heavy into something, I go very heavy into that subject that I need to be educated on, and I've had a lot of fun over the past couple of weeks watching a ton of videos, being educated from what I feel are some of the top people on YouTube in the vintage community. But the catch is, I don't know what works. I knew what drove and what delivered results in Project 2020 and in Project 70, but this is another learning curve for me. Just like I had to learn YouTube, I had to learn recording, as in everyone has to learn this for the very first time. I'm forever thankful that I started recording back in 2020 during COVID, because I love going back to those videos. I don't for a second remember what I said in a lot of these videos, but having the ability to go back and watch these videos is why I will advocate for everyone in the hobby. Turn on your recorder, turn on your camera, and put out content. And although some people are uncomfortable with putting their face on the camera, do it. You are gonna want to see yourself in 5, 10, 15 years. I think it's amazing for me to go back and watch and look at myself now in 2025 to what I look like and sound like in 2020. So this is really, when I think about the future of this channel, right? This is gonna be a pre-war channel. This is gonna be Polar Bear. Like, you know me for Polar Bear, you know me for T206. I would love your feedback. I'm thinking of ideas for 2025. I want to showcase all of my Polar Bear cards. I'm thinking about doing maybe 10 to 12 videos, if not maybe 20 videos, walking everyone through my set, maybe like in 10 to 12 card increments. I want to do analysis of the actual T206 set. I want to do weekly pickups, grading reveals, things like that. But I know what works on the surface, but I really would love to know what works deep down. If you're a vintage or pre-war collector, what do you enjoy from other channels? I know there were a lot of interviews out there, but I don't know, and that's not something I've really ever done in this channel or on this channel. I've never really done an interview of another collector. I have been fortunate to be on numerous channels as the interviewee, but I've never been the interviewer. So I would just love to hear what your thoughts are, your feedback around the channel. What do you want to see? What do you want to hear in 2025? Because the vintage community is strong. There is a lot of onions to peel back, or a lot of layers of this onion, and I am just scratching the surface right now. And I would love your feedback and your comments around how can I become part of this fantastic community.